Yes.
This is the Nerdy 30s, the podcast that shows you don't have to be a certain age to give up the things that you love. I am Travis Harrison.
I'm Erin Naoma, and we have a special guest with us today.
Guest.
What's your name?
You don't know? You have me on. Don't know my name. Oh, awesome.
What is it?
Hi. Hello, listeners. My name is Gordon Smuder. I'm a puppeteer.
And it's awesome. Now you actually have a puppet forge, don't you?
Yes, I do. Every so often I get out the fleece tongs and the fleece hammer, and I will forge some puppets. Genuine puppets, not forged puppets.
It's gotta be. He wouldn't lie to us.
It's like a blacksmith. It's like Skyrim with puppets.
I love it. I'm actually picturing that right now. Okay, you gotta tell me, like, how did it come about? You forging puppets? Like, was it just this die-hard love that you had since childhood, or?
That's part of it. I guess, my background. I used to do a lot of costuming, and I would do costuming at conventions and that sort of thing as a hobby. I had a job at a banner factory, working an industrial sewing machine for a long time. And then I went into special effects, and I worked special effects for about 25 years, doing props and miniatures and whatever was necessary. You can pretty much guess that, I'm from Minnesota, and doing special effects here involves a lot of commercial work, because we have most of the big advertising agencies in the country have offices here. And so in the day when physical effects were the big deal, were still being used, that's when I did most of my work. But then after I became a dinosaur in that industry, because of computers and digital sort of stuff, eventually the ulcer became bad enough that my wife just said, you know what, why don't you quit doing that? You're not making any money anyway, so go do what you love and we'll make money at that. So. Oh,
that's a good wife.
She is. I count my blessings every day when I wake up and I see her smiling face. She's,
I thought he was going to launch into that song we were just singing.
I totally thought you were going to as well. When I wake up, I know I'm going to be.
Yeah, that song.
I'm so sorry.
This is the podcast where we randomly break into song, so you'll get used to that.
Yeah.
Oh, totally no, I'm totally used to that.
But yeah, I was actually a prop person as well.
I know, when you said props, she got really excited. Like, I love props.
I was like, that's what I do. Well, that's what I did.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't partake in the prop business anymore, as I probably should, though, because I still enjoy making props.
Making props, handing people props. Here's your prop.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it.
Like that one time, she was the prop girl in high school. We went to high school together, and we were doing a play, 1776, and she was in charge of the food props because my character had to eat a lot. And so every day she'd give me like weird like Japanese cakes and stuff. I'm like, I don't think this is period accurate.
No, it's completely normal.
But it was fun. It was a fun time.
What kind of movies did you do, your special effects on?
Well, like I said, we did a lot of commercial work. So it was dancing hamburgers, magic footballs, perfect toilet paper packages.
Nice.
That kind of thing. You've reached the big time when you are set aside and paid your day rate to sort through 40 cases of toilet paper to find the perfect rolls to put into the perfect packaging. So that's, the high glamour fashion sort of industry of special effects. Let me think. Boy, I have worked on movies. We actually did. If you've seen Mighty Ducks 3,
yes.
The Mighty Ducks movies were all shot here in Minnesota.
Nice.
And in Mighty Ducks 3, there's a scene where the ducks sneak into the opponent's locker room and use liquid nitrogen to freeze everything.
Oh, yes. I remember this. The Russians, correct?
Yeah, and then the bad guys come in and they see the room is all kind of frozen, and then one of them kind of reaches out and touches their Letterman jacket hanging on the wall, and it falls and shatters.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was in charge of making several shattering candy glass Letterman's jackets.
Wow.
That is so cool.
That was what we did for that film.
How long did it take to make one of those?
Several weeks, mainly because, you're not, there's no book that says, oh, this is how you make a shattering Letterman's jacket, by the way.
Right.
you don't
Write it then.
There's no instruction book. So you're making it up as you go. And so we started out with a Letterman jacket that was provided to us by the production. We took that and we saturated it with fiberglass resin to make it hard and stiff. Then we took that and made a silicone mold from it. And into that silicone mold, we brushed candy glass, intrinsically colored candy glass. And then, of course, they were painted as well on the outside. But yeah, they were big and they were bulky and they were really fragile. And, it was kind of a nail biter just getting them onto set. But we did it and it worked. Ended up looking really good in the film. The other famous thing, your listeners will probably know this one if you have seen the movie Mallrats.
Yeah.
Remember when Kevin Smith's character pulls out that Batman grappling hook gun and uses it to escape from Sven-Ole Thorsson's character? I designed that and had hands on building it. That was one of the weird things that happened during my tenure at Special Effects Land.
So I have to ask you something really quick. The jerseys in Mighty Ducks 3,
Yes.
it's made out of candy glass. Can you eat them?
No. No, you
I
cannot.
was thinking that myself. I was like, this sounds delicious.
I wish you could. Oh, is it because it's painted, or is candy glass
actual
just
glass?
just a fancy name?
Candy glass. The reason why it's called candy glass is because back in the ancient days of Hollywood, when they made breakaway bottles, they would in fact make them from sugar. They would melt sugar and pour it into a mold.
Interesting.
What we were using was a very brittle polymer.
Oh,
and
yeah, I'm not eating that.
Specifically designed for, making breakaway items for film. But no, it is not an edible thing, which, is sad. But
It is.
If I was there and it was made of sugar, they'd be like, where's all of our jerseys? I ate them.
You're like, sorry guys, I didn't mean to. It was just so delicious.
I'll have another one too in a couple weeks.
Oh, that is really disappointing, but I'm glad that you got to make those for Mighty Ducks 3. We're a big Mighty Ducks fan over here.
well, cool.
Good work, sir. So I gotta ask you. So you said that it takes like 2 weeks just to make a jersey, and that's making the casting and all that. How long does it take to make a puppet?
It completely depends on what the design is like. In general, most very simple puppets, it take me a day or two. If I'm being careful about it. With something that, like, okay, say you came to me with your cartoon character, and you wanted a very nice puppet representation of that cartoon character. I would have to start from the ground up. I would have to make that pattern and test it and make sure that it's going to look right, and then move. Basically, it's a process. And in that case, that's a super custom thing, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending.
Yeah.
It really does. The amount of detail and the specificity of the forms and shapes and things that I would need to build are really, really dictate how long it's going to take. So yeah.
Dang.
So do you like make costumes for people? Or
Did you make Jay Fosgit's
puppet?
puppet?
Neutral.
I did not make his
You
troll.
didn't make Bodhi?
I didn't make Bodhi. That was made by another puppet making gentleman by the name of James Voital. He's a great guy. He's a great puppet builder. People automatically assume, oh my God, you must be enemies. No, we're not.
He's my puppet enemy.
My nemesis.
That'd be so fun. I would watch a TV show about like puppet making nemesis.
Hey, there you go.
Let's do a reality show about puppet builders.
Next idea.
People get deep so fast. We would call it the go to sleep show. But I did just finish a puppet for Jay. He's working on a new character, and he wanted something 3D to kind of play with. And so I don't know if I'm allowed to really talk about it much. It's a dragon character. That's what I can. So
Calm down, Erin. She
Sorry.
likes to get spoilers.
I do. I love spoilers.
in fact, it has been complete. If you really want to see a picture of it, you better pester Jay.
I can do that. I can totally do that. I pester Jay all the time.
And just thinking about it, I did do actually another puppet for Jay a long time ago, which was his character Abner Cadaver, the zombie.
Nice.
So it was a super duper simple puppet. He's like a medicine capsule shape. I mean, he's just like a tall dome. He's got a big mouth, and his head kind of opens at the neck like a Guy Smiley sort of thing. And one arm was functional with an arm rod, and then the other arm was like a bone sticking out of his shoulder.
Oh.
So
Sounds
it's
painful.
pretty cute. It's pretty cute.
It's pretty cute. He's just a zombie with bones sticking out of him. It's pretty.
Yeah. That's my job. I make that crap cute.
That's exactly right.
Well, that's probably why him and Jay know each other so well. 'Cause
Yeah, cute and
he kind
creepy.
of does the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So are you a big Jim Henson fan as well?
No, hate his guts.
Oh, what?
He's laughing. He's laughing. He's laughing.
Oh, well, I find that interesting. If he did, be like, why?
So what's your favorite Jim Henson character?
What's my favorite Jim Henson character?
This is very important to me.
I'm gonna pull a deep track and say that the Land of Gorch characters from Saturday Night Live
Interesting.
were some of the best puppets that they used. The whole story behind that Saturday Night Live debacle was pretty interesting, and I would say look it up if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is, just in case your listeners are wondering, if you want to see all of those early SNL Muppet sketches, go ahead and buy the first season of SNL on DVD. The box does not say anything about them. So, I mean, I held off buying it for a very long time because I didn't know if the material was on there.
Yeah.
And there is zero mention on the outside of the box. There is no Henson mention. There is no Muppet mention. There is no Land of Gorch mention. Nothing on the exterior to tell you that material is on those discs. So I can tell you it is. I finally got a copy and watched it.
That's awesome.
Huzzah.
I wonder if they just didn't expect for it to be such a draw. And maybe that's why they didn't
You
put it
know
on there?
what? I don't think there's any puppet fans that watch SNL. Let's just put a lot more Rita Rudner and Chevy Chase on this.
Right. Yeah.
My favorite Jim Henson character is always going to be Agra.
Oh, Agra's good.
Because she's so funny. The one-eyed. I love her.
Yep.
My
Yep.
favorite is, I've got a lot. I love Ludo. I love Pepe. I love Gonzo.
She's gonna keep going on for like an hour.
Yeah, I've got a lot. I absolutely love Jim Henson. And
If its name begins with an English speaking letter, then it's probably one of your favorites.
Yes.
yeah.
It was produced on a day that
I think you're right. Oh, and Sweetums.
Sweetums. Wait, which one is Sweetums?
He's the big hairy guy that walks around and talks like this.
Wait, from which is he from Labyrinth?
The Muppet Show.
Muppet. I don't remember him.
He's the guy
I'm
with the
sorry.
really long orange nose, and he's mostly big brown fur.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You think
He's a walk around guy. In the
I know, I
Muppet,
know.
he's the one who chases them after the car lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know who you're talking about now. I didn't know his name. I know his face.
His name's Sweetums because he's such a sweetie.
He's such a sweetie.
He's such a sweet little hairy man.
First
Muppet?
appeared in. Here's your trivia question.
Okay.
Sweetums first appeared in what?
Muppets Take Manhattan?
Nope.
I don't know. What?
Yeah. I'm not a
Frog.
Muppet guy.
So Sweetums first appeared in The Frog Prince, which was originally part of the Tales of Tinker D programs that the Henson Company made in the late 60s, early 70s.
What?
So yeah, he was the henchman of the Wicked Witch that had turned young Prince Robin into a frog.
I remember this.
I always know that face when you just like look up like you're getting a vision. Like you're I remember this.
Hey guys, sparked a synapse.
It's like you triggered something, and I'm like, oh yeah.
She does this at least 12 times a podcast.
I do.
She's like, I remember this.
Well, I have one of those memories where something has to jog it for me to be like, oh yeah.
You just have to jolt, like just put like those spark things to your head. And
Right.
Just, I remember.
Exactly. That is 100% my brain. It's like, let me give you something that leads you to it, and then I'm like, oh yes, I remember. So
you're
you
analog.
actually, what'd you say?
So you're analog.
I am. 100%.
Not digital.
I'm not digital. So, your show, Transylvania Television. Please tell us about it.
About 10 years ago, we decided, my co-partners and I decided that instead of waiting around for somebody to say, hey, let's do a puppet show, that we would just say that and do it ourselves.
Sounds like us.
So
Yeah.
I had just finished helping Michael Hegel do his independent movie called Planetfall. Michael Hegel came to my house one time and saw a couple of puppets that I had made. And he said, so do you ever think about, doing any film with the puppets? And I was like, of course, that's all I ever think about.
Right.
Except I'm not a camera guy. I'm not a sound guy. I'm not a director, and I'm not a lighting guy. So I'm not doing it on my own. And so both of us kind of brought to the party our contacts, and our collaboration ended up bringing together professionals from all over the Minnesota film industry. And I am very proud to say that even after 10 years of off and on production, whenever we say, hey guys, let's do some more Transylvania Television, pretty much everybody shows up.
That's awesome.
And they do it just because they love doing it. Are we making money on it? Well, not really.
And that's okay.
It's the art that matters. I think that's what we figured out recently.
Yeah.
Well, we really do want to make money on it, and that's part of the thing. But until we can find a way to monetize in a big way,
Right.
that it's going to be one of those projects where we tell everybody before we begin, okay, guys, look, there's $0. So if you need to stop doing this to go do a regular gig, then let us know, and that's fine. But we have Alan Lloyd, who's doing our lighting, who over the years he has become like this crazy efficient, amazing lighting guy for puppets. He's developed techniques of his own to light puppets so that they look great. And then we have Troy LaFay, who is one of our LLC members. He is also our director of photography. And he's actually a teacher. He teaches video production at a local business college. Michael Hegel was also a teacher. He has moved on from that career now and is doing other things, but still comes back for Transylvania Television. And then we've got all of our actors and puppeteers who come in and basically contort themselves below frame so we can get every shot that we need. And, all for lunch. So it's quite a thing. I'm so very, very happy and thankful for all of those people because they are the ones who are making the show what the show is. I've said it before and I say it again over and over. It could just be me holding a puppet up in front of a video camera and hoping someday that, someone will take notice.
Right.
The show would not exist without all of the efforts and the talents and the donations that were given to us by all of the people who are involved. So that's to have
it more fun to have like a passion project.
I agree.
Transylvania Television is an all puppet sitcom that is aimed at an adult audience. Now, I have to qualify that because, when you say it's an adult show, everybody thinks, oh, it's puppet porn, or it's,
there's an audience, I'm sure.
There is an audience for that, but that's not our audience. We just don't focus on entertaining kids. Our attitude towards the material is more like The Simpsons or more like South Park, that sort of thing, where
I actually agree with that fully. I've been watching the show, and it's definitely very South Park.
Well, we certainly don't intend for children to watch the show, mainly because we don't think it would be interesting to them as material. Of course, kids will watch puppets do anything, but we do a lot of stuff that is, it's just grown up material. Right. And we try to keep it funny, and we try to keep it away from highly topical subjects. We don't do politics, mainly because if we had been doing politics in the early days, all of that material would now be completely useless.
Right.
We don't want to. There are some references that we make, but mostly to more historical type politics than anything. And then there's the naughty boy jokes and the that sort of thing. The one thing that we do specifically stay away from are puppet jokes.
That's true.
We don't. My personal philosophy is that adults should be able to sit down and watch puppet entertainment and suspend their disbelief just as if they were watching an animated show or if they were watching a live action show. But there is a prevailing sort of feeling that puppets are kiddie stuff. And so whenever anybody makes puppets for grown-ups, they have this this need almost to couch it in these are puppets, so we're going to make handhold jokes, and we're going to make we're going to make jokes about them being puppets. And it just occurs to me that if you were reading a book and you really liked the story, except every page or two they would remind you that you're reading a book, that would get really annoying.
Yes, it would.
I would be oddly fascinated with that. Be like, and you're reading a book. Oh, really?
I didn't know.
I forgot.
So it's I know it's been done, actually. I think the Robert Lynn Asprin series that he did was a silly a silly thing. But the whole point is, I want to make puppet entertainment that adults can sit down and watch and not feel like they need the crutch of having a child right there.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've got. I loved Greg the Bunny. Greg the Bunny was a great series.
Mm-hmm.
It was specifically geared for adults,
Right.
and they were the first ones really to use the whole trope of puppets are real, they live in the real world, they're second class citizens, that kind of thing. So they have the novelty of being one of the first to really do that.
Yeah.
I worked on the pilot for another sitcom that essentially did exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I didn't turn down the work because it was a paying gig. But again, you're dealing with we're making handhold jokes. Oh, we're calling them socks, or we're doing whatever. And then I just recently found out that the Henson Company is doing a movie that's called, I think it's called The Happy Time Murders.
Uh-huh.
And Melissa McCarthy is in it. And and so it's from what I've read, it is quite literally a mashup of Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Greg the Bunny.
That's good. Oh, that sounds awesome.
Sounds amazing. It's one of my favorite childhood movies. So.
Me too.
You've got a human cop or detective or someone who is trying to solve the case of the murder of their relative, their brother, their sister, whatever it is, and they happen to be biased against puppets, and they end up having to work with a puppet to solve the case. And I'm like, that sounds an awful lot like Roger Rabbit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is literally right off of Roger Rabbit.
I wonder if Christopher Lloyd will be partaking.
That was terrifying. That still traumatizes me to this day. Is when
he melted the shoe.
Yeah, and then when his eyes are bugging out when he's getting run over by the steamroller.
Yes.
It's petrifying, but I loved it so much.
Yeah.
Smile, darn you, smile. So, but I find that sort of concept limiting. I certainly can't poo-poo it because they found money to do it and they're going to do it. And work for puppeteers is a good thing.
Yes, it is.
What I really, really want to do is I want to get like Netflix to pay me to do a series that is as big as Game of Thrones, but just do it with puppets.
That'd be awesome.
I would actually watch it because I'm not big on Game of Thrones right now, but
I would watch Game of Thrones puppet style.
Yeah.
I want to do a huge epic series with just puppets.
Dang.
And take it to places where Henson never thought he was going to get. Now, of course, we also have the Henson Company is also working on the new Dark Crystal series.
Yeah.
So that's not a movie. That's a TV series.
Right.
I believe most of that is being filmed in England. So that's a lot more English puppeteers getting jobs than American puppeteers. But it's still work, and it's still keeping puppets in the consciousness of the public. So I'm totally for that.
But you wish it was you.
I wish it was me. You're damn right. I wish it was me.
I completely understand. It's like, I'm good at it too.
Pick me. Love me. What was that, Bridget Jones?
It was Bridget Jones. It was.
Well, she's English, so we have to not say that.
Oh, that's true. I actually love Bridget Jones, but it's okay. So when you're actually, filming all these puppets on screen, is it different from when you're just acting, like actually being visual on screen? Like, do you have to do a lot of takes, or what's it like?
The answer is yes. Let me see if I can break it down. Doing puppetry for the camera is it's a difficult thing to begin with, because you have to start with basic puppetry skills. You have to know, people obsess about lip sync, but more important than lip sync, I think, in performing a puppet is eye focus. Mm-hmm. If your puppet is just kind of like wandering about with their eyes and not really looking at anything,
Lazy eyes.
You're not bringing that character to life. You're not,
Right.
We see, part of our visual cues, our subconscious watches other faces,
Right.
and we watch where that face is looking and what that face is paying attention to. And that is one of those subconscious things that tells us, okay, that's alive, know.
They're communicating with one another.
Yeah.
And you're not even trying. It's just, by nature that we're doing this. You need to be able to impart that life through this inanimate object on the end of your arm. And yes, you're given an object that already has a face. It's got, at minimum, it has two eyes and a mouth.
Right.
But it's a different skill set. It's a different skill set than acting. Especially since, an actor's tool is their face. A puppeteer's tool is their hand. I always tell puppeteers, you have to pull your brain out of your head and set it on the end of your arm and understand that that's where you're expressing from. And, puppets will give you a certain amount. The puppet will have an intrinsic expression that you can work with. I tell people, people always ask me to build them a puppet, and then they say, can you put in an eye mechanism? Can you make it blink? Can you make wiggly ears? Can you do all these things? I'm like, have you ever handled a puppet before?
Yeah, it's not necessary.
Number one, I don't think it's necessary. But number two, if you are unskilled at puppetry, it is not going to help your performance one iota. In fact, it's going to make your performance even worse, because you don't have the basic skills down, which you build on top of with the aid of those mechanisms.
Right.
And if you look carefully at the Muppets, there are so very few that actually have any sort of moving facial feature. Gonzo has eyelids, Animal has eyelids. Fozzie Bear doesn't even have wiggling ears anymore, because Frank Oz decided the mechanism was too heavy and just wanted to get rid of it. Kermit doesn't have any of that. Piggy doesn't have any of that. Fozzie doesn't have any of that. Scooter. I think Dr. Teeth actually has something that'll allow them to raise his eyeglasses or something.
Yes.
Dr. Honeydew doesn't have any of that. Beaker doesn't really have any of that. So what is it that's giving the performance? It's the artist underneath.
Right.
Then on top of all that, you have performing for the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So when a puppeteer is working on video, there is a live feed going from the camera to a monitor, usually at their feet or, on a stand or what have you, that they can see. And the reason why is because they need to know what the puppet looks like to the camera. Because you are underneath it, you can't tell what the puppet is looking at. You can't tell, which way he's going or what he's looking at or how he rests in frame, how tall he is in frame, all of those things. And you got to be able to know that in order to get a good performance. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem being is that you are looking at yourself backwards on that monitor. If you
mess me up.
if you turn your hand right, the puppet on the monitor is going to turn left.
Oh man, that would drive me nuts.
Because you're seeing what the camera sees, only turned backwards so you can see it. Now, there are ways of flipping that image on the monitor. But it is not a universal thing in every production facility. And so therefore, puppeteers just said, you know what, we're going to learn to deal with this. And it has been that way ever since. So performing on
Kind of
camera.
like weather people.
Invisible.
Yeah.
So when people ask me what it's like to perform on camera, I tell them it is like backing a tractor trailer down a long, winding driveway using only your rear view mirrors, but also reading the newspaper and having a conversation with your passenger at the same time.
Oh, no. I'm a bad driver, so that's triggering me.
That sounds really simple. I don't know.
That's what the problem is.
I don't understand.
So puppeteers rely a lot on muscle memory.
Right.
You know, you have to be able to reverse that thing in your head, so you're not second guessing yourself. You know, you can watch novice puppeteers on camera, and they'll do that sort of I don't know which way I'm supposed to turn kind of thing.
Right.
And while they're still being okay performance-wise, you can tell there's a hesitation in their moves, and that's just it's something you got to grow past. It's something you practice and get over. But the one of the hardest things about puppets on camera is dealing with the camera people, the production people, because shooting puppets is much different than shooting live actors. When the puppet when the characters have to move about in the frame, there's a lot of troubles. The director needs to have a whole new vocabulary. You can't just say, "Hey, move up," to a puppeteer. You can't say "move up." What does that mean? Does that mean
What am I moving up?
Move my hand, move myself.
For an actor, when someone says, "Hey, move up," it generally means walk towards the camera a little bit.
Right. Full body movement.
Yeah. But when you're talking to a puppet, it's like, okay, do I get taller in frame? Do I move towards camera? Do I move upstage? Do I, what's, it's the director has to understand what the puppeteer is seeing from their perspective. Then you have lots of stories of camera people who want to keep reframing. It's like, you know what? I have total control of this character, and you don't need to move the camera. I will put the character in the place where it needs to be.
They are an inanimate object I can animate.
But artistic vision.
So, you don't need to follow me, and I'm going to go below frame, and then I'm going to come back up in frame, and I'll know where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And then you've got the grips and the lighting guys who don't understand how much work it is hoisting that puppet.
Right.
And I have a special thing that I do with untrained crews. Usually they will say, "Hey, can you hold the puppet up? Because I get some lighting on it and whatever." And I'll say, "Yeah, sure," and I'll put it up. And then probably about a minute or two in, I'll say, "Oh, hey, you know what? I got to go run to the bathroom. Can you just hold him up here? I mean, it's no big deal. Hold him up." And then I'll leave for about 15 minutes. And when I come back, I guarantee you that puppet is going to be on a stand.
Yep. And they get it. Well, what exactly, I mean, when you're done shooting for the day, how does your body feel? I can't imagine how heavy that thing must be.
Yeah, how heavy is it?
When you're building a puppet, you try really, really hard to make them light. That's just, and the lighter they are, the easier it is to deal with them. And it's funny because most puppets, a naked puppet really isn't that heavy. It's when you start adding clothing and stuff on top of them,
Yeah.
And a lot of people will use children's clothing. People don't realize how heavy clothing is.
Right.
We did one of our web sketches a long time ago had my character Furry Ackermonster, the Yeti.
Yes.
We needed an appearance by his mom, so we dressed Furry up and put a scarf on him, and I think he had horn rimmed glasses and a shawl.
I bet he looked beautiful.
Yeah. And all dolled up, and wow, it was this total difference. I mean, Furry is actually very light.
Really?
He's nothing but a big bag of fabric with a foam skull inside that I used, to move his head.
Huh. I
And
thought
so-
he would be the heaviest.
No, he's not. He's not. Let's see, who's the heaviest? Boy, I think Cryptomachus, the Crypt Keeper guy, I think is probably one of the heaviest puppets we have. And that's mainly because he is not made from standard puppet fleece. He's actually made from, there's an upholstery material that I used on him just to get a different texture going.
Yeah.
But so when we did the Furry sketch and dressed him up as his mom, just the weight of those glasses and the scarf really put a strain on my hand when I was performing. And
Oh, absolutely.
it was only a few ounces. I mean, it couldn't have been any more than like 8 ounces tops. But just that difference is enough to really put a stress on you. And I appreciate that. And as the guy who builds most of the puppets for the show, I am now very, very, very conscious about how heavy I'm building things. There's the mantra for most puppet builders is, and this comes from the Henson Company. Let's see, lighter, tougher, more expressive. So lighter, tougher, more flexible. Those are the things that you're always looking for when you're building a puppet.
Interesting. So, do you have just like one arm that's super beefy?
That's funny you should ask that because it's true.
It's the farmer's tan of puppeting.
Yeah.
It is.
My right forearm is actually measurably larger than my left because my right hand is what I use to operate the mouth.
Right.
And that's the one that's getting all the exercise. Left hand with Furry is operating his left hand all the time, and so it's just gesturing and that sort of thing. Not a lot of movement going on.
Yeah, not a lot of weight.
Yeah. And speaking of arms, one of our puppeteers, Jeff, who plays Hannibal Von Bucket. Jeff is a dedicated puppeteer, and so he has actually had puppet guts tattooed on his forearm.
Fascinating.
So he actually designed a what a puppet would look like inside, and so there's the heart is actually like an alarm clock. And those sorts of things, lots of gags like that, and he actually had it tattooed. So that's very cool, and I respect that quite a bit.
That's dedication.
Interesting.
I like that.
So do all puppets have clocks for hearts, or is that?
Oh no, that was that was just based on the old gag. That's his ticker.
Oh,
Oh.
I got it now.
It took me a second, but I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
So, how do you get puppets to hold things? Is it Velcro or? I always wonder this when I'm watching anything with puppets. I'm like, how is he holding that stick?
He has no thumbs.
So there are two different styles of puppets that we generally work with. Mm-hmm. One is called a glove hand or live hand puppet, and that's like Fozzie Bear or Rolf the dog or Cookie Monster. Or Furry Acker Monster. They one hand. Both the hands are actually gloves that have human hands inside them so that they can grasp things and pick them up and move them around.
Mm-hmm. So his body's on your head, right?
Yeah.
Is he hooked to your head? Okay.
No, well, not hooked to my head. I usually, he's, like I say, he's just a big bag of fabric. So I put that bag of fabric over my head, and I'm usually watching out through, the bottom, trying to see the monitor. There are some times when I have to actually, because of the positioning, I have to roll up the front of him a little bit and pin it in place so I can actually see out. And that's, you get away with a lot because he's, big furry guy.
Right.
But other puppets like Count LeShock or Kermit the Frog or Scooter, they all have posable hands that have wires inside and are operated with what they call an arm rod. And that's just that little 18 gauge wire that comes out the bottom of the bottom of the wrist. Now those characters can't actually pick anything up. I mean, they literally can't grasp something unless you put it there. And so, say you need to do a scene where one of those characters needs to pick up the phone. You do it creatively. You do it in the cut, as they say. So the character, the phone rings, the character walks up, the character puts his hand on the phone, and then the shot cuts to maybe a closer shot, a bust shot of that character, and they raise the phone to their ear. Now, what you've done in between those two shots, of course, is either taped or stitched or, arranged the hand wires inside to grasp that prop telephone.
Yeah.
So, it's an illusion. There was a great I can't remember exactly when it was. It must have been like mid to late 70s on the Oscars. Kermit and Scooter were the presenters of an award on the Oscars. And you can probably find it on YouTube if you look it up.
I've seen it.
And
She's seen it.
Scooter is holding the envelope, and Kermit says, "Okay, Scooter, open the envelope." And Scooter just kind of stands there and says, I can't. And Kermit's like, "What do you mean you can't? I can't open the envelope." And then the camera cuts away to the audience. When the camera cuts back, there's Jim Henson standing there. And he says, "Well, I'm going to have to do this for the guys." And he opens the envelope and reads the name.
Now it all makes sense to me why he did that.
I would just be crying if I were Scooter. I'd be like, "My hands.
Hands don't work.
I feel bad for them now." Oh.
You've completely blown my mind because I've always wondered that. Thank you for explaining, because seriously.
So if you really want to have fun, I'm one of those guys who watches movies way too closely.
Uh-huh.
And so if you watch the Muppet movie, the original Muppet movie, when Kermit and Piggy just get done with the scene where they're going to fry Kermit's brains with the machine, and it's Mel Brooks and that, and all the bad guys are gone, and it's Kermit and Piggy, and they're standing there. The phone rings. Piggy answers the phone. And then she, I'll take the job, whatever, blah, blah, blah. She turns back to Kermit. She hangs up the phone, ostensibly, and she turns back to Kermit and says, "Well, bye," and runs away. You can see that the phone received still in her hand.
She stole it.
She stole it. No, just it was supposed to stay below frame, but it didn't because, Frank Oz was a little too active, and you catch a glimpse of that prop still in her hand, which, like I say, I watch stuff way too closely. I catch stuff like that all the time.
No, it's a good thing.
It makes sense in character because she probably just brought it to beat Kermit.
She's like, "I'll use this later on you, sir."
Well, whatever you do, don't get me started talking about the original Star Wars.
You always could.
I know. She's gonna make you now. Like,
okay,
So-
here's one of the big ones. Here's one of the big ones. I was very disappointed in the special editions because they didn't actually correct what was wrong in the movie.
Oh yeah, they just
Yeah.
added a bunch of
added a bunch of
CGI stuff.
Yeah.
So at the droid auction, the Jawas are there at the Lars homestead, and R5 rolls away and then blows up. They cut
Sad
back
day.
for a reaction shot of R2, and R5 is still sitting there behind him at the droid at the.
It's the ghost.
Oops. You couldn't erase him in post production or something?
No, because that would
and-
take money
and-
away from the big. What are they? The Tauntauns, or what
Yeah.
are they called?
The Tauntaun.
And then if you watch closely later on, when they land on Yavin 4 and they're getting off the transport, they've just come into Yavin base. They get off the transport and they pull R2 off the little car. He's backwards. The shot actually was flipped because they R2 was actually loaded on the opposite side of the car, but they wanted to show them taking R2 off the car. And
Notice.
I noticed that. I was like, why are they doing this? That doesn't make sense.
I'm so angry.
one of the great rules of film is that you don't cut at a 180. You don't
Right.
you don't show one view and then do the exact opposite view in the next shot. And so they didn't have any other footage, so they felt like they had to flip the shot in order to make him look like he was looking the right direction. And if you look carefully, his little holo projector is on the wrong side. His little coin slots are on the wrong side of his front vents. As someone who has
totally
built
noticed that.
my own too, you look at those details and you go, oh, he's backwards.
Uh-oh, guys. Uh-oh. They did fix Jabba, though.
Wasn't he just? It was just like some
never make babies
large
again.
man.
Jabba was just a guy with, like, a furry shirt on.
It looked like Nathan Lane or something.
I have no idea. But
I don't
least
know
they
if I
fixed
could actually
that.
call that fixing Jabba.
Yeah, the CGI was really awkward.
It was.
It
was.
was not awful. It was terrible. I would rather
But, I
have
mean,
watched the
it's-
Big Muppet.
Would you have rather watched the furry man? Like, if they just left that in there?
Well, he wasn't. I don't remember in the original version. Wasn't he not supposed to be Jabba, but like somebody else?
Oh, I don't remember.
It's been a long time since I've seen the original non-crazy version.
Well, no, he was supposed to be Jabba.
Also, if you notice that scene was taken out and they redid a bunch of that dialogue in the scene with Greedo.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when you put that scene back in, suddenly Han Solo is like with this guy and Jabba and repeating himself. And it kind of makes sense because, he shot and killed Greedo. So the word really didn't get back to Jabba until Han met him himself and told him the same thing again. But it really wasn't. There were so many things that they could have done that they didn't take advantage of.
I know.
But
was so
you know what?
excited
I don't
for all
own
the
those
technology.
films, and so
That's
therefore
true.
I really can't say anything about it.
You would have fixed everything, and it would have been perfect.
I think just a lot of fans in general would have fixed it.
Yeah.
Just been like, calm down, George. Just because you have access to all this doesn't mean you have to use it.
I seem to remember George Lucas saying in an interview once, "Yeah, without a story, a special effect is a pretty boring thing."
Yeah, it is. And then now he's like, here's all the special effects.
Yeah, I got
CGI.
that story shit out of the way.
CGI.
Now here's the special effects.
I have extra money now, guys.
Oh, it's not good. It's just not. Okay, back to
Transylvania Television.
Transylvania Television.
That is why we're
So-
here.
Yeah.
That is why we're here, but we are the nerdy 30s, so
We go off on tangents
we
sometimes.
tangent, and we like to talk about Star Wars and all the ridiculous things they've done with it. So,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
so I heard, and this is going to make a lot of people that I know pretty excited. You have a link with Mystery Science Theater. Is this correct?
Yes, indeed, we do. Several years back, we did a Halloween special, And before we actually aired it on local television, we decided we were going to like throw a party and show it to the people who worked on it and their families. And we invited press. And one of the things that we did was we got in contact with Trace Ballou, who was the original Crow T robot, and Dr. Forrester on the first few seasons of Mystery Science Theater. And mainly the connection there was because we were airing it on the same channel that they originally aired Mystery Science Theater on, which was the local Channel 23. So Trace came and did intros for us. We ran the show 3 times over. We changed out the audience 3 times. And Trace, I'm very proud to say, found it interesting enough to watch it twice. Awesome. And was a great guy to have around and talk to. And then he made the big mistake of saying, well, if you guys ever want to do anything together, just, let me know.
And you're like, yes, I do.
Let's plan this now.
Let me get out my calendar.
He was being Minnesota nice and was offering it up. And I'm like, well, I'm not Minnesota nice, and I'll take you up on that offer. So
exactly.
Later on, I was doing another web series. I had started a new web series called Vermin, which was about rats that work in a testing lab as their day job.
That sounds so cool, by the way. I want to watch that.
Those episodes are up on YouTube. You can find them.
I'm going to find them.
And Trace is our scientist guy in the show of Vermin. He was great to work with. Total cool dude just to have on set.
Yeah.
And then when we got a little bit of money to produce a few more episodes of Transylvania Television, we had him come in and do some voiceover stuff for us. So there's a new platform on the web called Seeka.tv. And that's SEEKA.tv. Mm-hmm. And if you go there, you can watch all of our episodes of Transylvania Television, including 3 brand new episodes that we did just recently because Seeka gave us a little bit of cash. And
awesome.
We were able to pull all the sets out of storage and spruce up the puppets and get things going again. Trace came in and did a Mystery Science Theater parody for us.
Oh my gosh.
It's very, very short. Don't blink or you'll miss it. But he did the voice of Crow Robot again for us. And then he also did the voice of Rochambeau, the mystic demon trapped in a mirror. There's a sketch where Furry and Von Bucket do a rock, paper, scissors contest to see who's going to clear the vulture nests out of the transmission tower. And so they have to consult with the scrying mirror, and Rochambeau is the voice that comes forth.
That's awesome.
So we got Trace doing a little voiceover work for us, which is awesome.
Yeah, I know so many people are going to be like, what? Excuse me? Now, I'm on the first season of Transylvania Television, and I'm noticing something. Oh, that's true. But I'm noticing something. You talk a lot about puppets and penises.
Penises.
Do any of them actually have penises?
Any of penises? That is... You know what? That's a completely valid question.
I know, because they always talk about, Dwayne's penis being huge.
Do they have penises, and will they be making appearances?
So, are there penises?
There are, in fact, no penises.
Oh.
But, let me say, there are buns.
Oh.
There are buttocks. And there are, in fact, nipples.
Interesting.
So
can you milk their nipples, or?
No. They're felt.
That would probably add more weight.
That's a lot of weight. In the Halloween special, we actually get to see LeShock shirtless.
Ooh la la.
and he's got I shocked everyone on set by bringing in these little round clipped out circles of felt with little pom poms attached, and I just taped them to the puppet. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm putting nipples on him. He's a guy, right? I mean,
It's necessary.
shirtless." And then later in one of the new episodes that we did for Sika.tv, Von Bucket ends up getting naked, and Von Bucket's actually had a butt his entire career. I sculpted him a butt when we first started because I
God, I wish it
figured
was that easy.
I figured that eventually we'd have him like with plumber's crack or something because he's that kind of grody kind of character. But when we decided he was going to be having a nude scene, I actually went in and plumped up his butt quite a bit and actually gave him a little bit bigger of a beer belly, and
nice.
and also installed nipples. So
You gave him dad body.
gave him
Those
dad
are
bod-
so
yeah.
in right now.
It's really in.
I don't know about you,
So-
but I got one. So,
Yeah.
Pot time. So, sorry.
Just to take a moment.
Let me take a breath here. So, is the rat gay?
Just getting the hard hitting questions.
is the rat gay?
He's
Undetermined.
very interested. He's very
And in fact,
interested in
you know,
that penis.
it really, really, honestly, it wouldn't make any difference to me if he was. So,
I love my rat, even if he's gay.
I love it.
no, I think that's his
Sorry.
business. That's
Yes.
that's his
Yeah.
business.
He can do some inner workings, see where it leads him.
One day he'll be a strong single dad of 4 turtles who do ninja stuff.
Oh, Splinter, I got you. I'm there. But yeah, you haven't seen this. Anytime that Dwayne pulls out his wink-a-dink, and apparently it's huge. The rat's always like, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. Am I gay? I'm not gay. He really likes it.
Yes, yet another episode of Activities with Dwayne.
Dwayne's my favorite.
You know, the ladies really seem to like Dwayne, and it's not just because of his package. I think Dwayne has a far greater following than most of the other characters on the show, and I think it's just because of his personality.
Yeah, he's very genuine, and he's little bits and pieces of everyone. And there's actually one of his hands is not of age, so
That's
he
right.
can't go to bars. So he has to leave his hand outside.
So cracked out.
That is my favorite. I have non sequitur humor, so that
Yeah.
is straight up that's my bag.
I was thinking about it the other day, because I was watching some YouTube videos about the guy who made that vampire movie you like, the funny one.
Oh yeah.
What We Do in the Darkness?
Yes, that one.
You did it.
And I was like, they were talking a lot about how New Zealand humor is, and I'm just like, that's Erin's humor.
It's
New
so my
Zealand
humor. It's so my humor. A little off the wall, a little zany, a little weird. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was telling.
they love their absurdist humor.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I was actually telling Travis earlier, whenever I was talking to you on Facebook, that I was like, I need to make sure that I put lulls after the weird things I say.
So he doesn't think I'm
No,
weird.
you don't.
Well, I had a feeling you would be weird as well,
Yeah.
but I wasn't sure.
We only allow weird people on the podcast.
That's so true. That's so true. Nothing but a bunch of...
You're a straight-laced person? Go home!
It's so true. Oh, man. But, now, which one of the characters... I know that you play furry, but which one of the characters do you personally identify with the most?
Boy, probably furry, but there's a lot to recommend characters like Archie. Archie the Leech is the station accountant,
It's very interesting.
and he really is kind of Rick Moranis out of Ghostbusters, but
He is.
and yes, in fact, his name is a play on John Cleese's character in A Fish Called Wanda. That's most of our characters. Most of our characters have some sort of joke name going on.
Interesting.
In
Do
one way.
tell.
Well, my character, Furry J. Ackermonster, named for the famous creator of Famous Monsters magazine, Forrest Ackerman. Then Batfink, of course, being kind of an offshoot of Ratfink, which was a character created by Ed Roth in the 60s.
See, he reminded me of Rizzo
A little bit.
Like wait, what?
on the Muppets. Rizzo.
It's like Rizzo from
Yeah,
Greece.
no, the little rat.
It's like Rizzo from Greece.
Yes. There's worse things he could do.
Yeah, that's true. He just doesn't have the beehive. Anyway, Batfink. Batfink was kind of named after Ratfink, created by Ed Roth in the 60s. Ed Roth was a guy who did cars. He was kind of a gearhead. He did all the weird, fancy 60s cars. And then we also made Batfink kind of look like Ed Roth. We gave him a little goatee, gave him kind of a mat of black hair, and put him in a Hawaiian shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He was originally supposed to have cigarettes rolled up in his sleeve, but his arms are so small that we couldn't make a pack of cigarettes small enough to actually read as a pack of cigarettes rolled up in his sleeve. So that got by the wayside. Dwayne, who is Frankenstein's monster, also known as the Creature, Dwayne got sick of, just being called the Creature. It's very confusing when you're living with a bunch of other monsters.
Right.
And so he said, I'll just take Dad's name and, call myself Dwayne. That's going to be my name now. Archie Leach, as I mentioned, kind of named after John Cleese's character. Cryptomachus. Cryptomachus is the Crypt Keeper. He's our version of the Crypt Keeper. We didn't want to call him Keeper, so
That's already been taken.
That's already been taken, and we could get sued.
Right.
So I actually worked on a video game once that was all about giant monsters trashing little towns, and one of the monsters in the game was called Reptomachus.
Cool.
So I just kind of mashed that together with Crypt Keeper and came up with Cryptomachus.
I totally thought you were going to go into a John Kessler story. Because I have a John Kessler story, and I feel bad about it.
Yeah, we met John Castor recently, and we went to this convention, and John Castor was one of the guests, and the lady that was working his booth was one of Erin's friends, so she came up, and he looked so excited because he didn't have anybody at his booth. And she immediately started talking to the girl Sandy, and then he was like, "Well, I'm the Crypt Keeper," and like he looked really defeated.
I was the giant's second head, and I was like, "That's so cool."
Yeah. Anyway, Sandy. It was fun. It was really sad because he looked very defeated.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah. Well, he's a great guy. If you're listening, John Castor, we like you. But
He's super sweet. He's really
Sandy
nice.
is her friend. So.
Well, conventions for celebrities are just so terribly defeating. I mean,
Yeah.
two great stories that I have about celebrities at conventions. First one is Gil Gerard, who played Buck Rogers on the 80s TV show.
Yes,
He had gained.
Gray.
Yes, she's great too.
Yes.
But Gil had gained a lot of weight. And my wife and I mean, I don't care. I'm not a it doesn't matter to me. I look at the person, not the physical thing.
Right.
And
Agreed.
so I walked up and I, got his autograph and that sort of thing. And as I was walking away with my wife, I overheard someone say, "Oh, look, there's the guy who used to be Gil Gerard."
What?
Yeah, people are jerks.
People are,
See, I can't handle that.
yeah, that's so uncharitable. It just, it makes me sad. Now, I saved that. I put that one first. The second one is about Mark Singer, the guy who was on the original V series, and he was also the Beastmaster. I saw him at his first convention appearance signing autographs.
Yeah.
This guy looked like someone just wound him up. He was behind the table, and while he was sitting behind the table, and people would be walking by, and he'd be, like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, hi, catching people's eye and waving at them, and all this kind of stuff." And these are all people that are like under the age of 20. They have no clue who this guy is.
Yeah.
And before I know it, he has literally vaulted the table and is out shaking people's hands. "Hi, I'm Mark Singer. Yeah, I was a thing. I was a beast." I'm like, oh, dude. Reality's going to set in real quick.
Oh, that's so sad. Like,
Well, it was entertaining to watch, but he was
Just love me.
like I say, reality was going to set in pretty quick, and he would come to realize, conventions are what they are.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, I talked to John Kasser for a little bit.
Yeah, but then you went back to Sandy, and he was like, "Oh, but she doesn't care about my body of work."
Well, I knew Sandy, and we were pen pals, and I hadn't
know.
seen her in 6 months, so...
Plus, all them people that went to that convention, like, they had to compete with Robert Englund, and
That's true.
nobody was getting anybody at their
That's
booth
true.
because of him.
And Danny Trejo.
Yeah, their lines were wrapped around the convention center.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
it was intense. It was intense. So you do conventions too, don't you?
Yes, we do. My wife and I tend to. We enjoy going to conventions. We're geeks just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And so, in order to kind of defray that, we go and we make money selling puppets at conventions. And I generate what I call seller puppets. They're not the big overblown the super Muppet television quality kind of things. I make them out of regular everyday fleece, and most of the designs that I do are from a set of standard patterns. But it's amazing how many different things you can make out of a round-headed puppet.
Yeah.
You add different ears and different eyes and a different nose or whatever, all the details, and you can make all kinds of different characters from that same stock puppet. There's a great company out of Texas that's called projectpuppet.com. Mm-hmm. And they have some awesome patterns. If any of your listeners, by the way, are interested in getting into making puppets, I thoroughly encourage everyone to do so.
I'm curious.
If people are interested in that craft, I'm more than willing to, let them know you can go here and find this, or work, you can, work on these sorts of things. And Project Puppet is a great company. They have several patterns that are not only easy to use, but they show you how. They tell you how to work with the materials. Mm-hmm. They supply most of the materials if that's if you want to get them through them, and they show you here's how you can modify these patterns and that sort of thing. So and you get a really nice looking puppet when you're done. So I would encourage people to look them up and if you're interested in that as a hobby, I would say go ahead and get yourself some of those patterns.
So do they send it to you? Is it like an internet-based thing?
Let's see. I don't know exactly how he's doing it these days. I bought patterns from him a long time ago. He used to send them out on paper, and then he started sending them out on disc. And now I think you might be able to just simply straight download from them. You pay for them through PayPal or whatever it is, and then he sends you a code, and you go to the website and you just download that pattern and print it yourself. So it's pretty cool. And Pasha is his name, and he's actually involved in another thing that's called Beyond the Sock Workshop, and that happens every year in Texas. They get Noel McNeil, who was Bear on Bear in the Big Blue House.
Yes, I know him.
And Peter, and I'm blanking on his last name. He was Walter in the latest in the new Muppet films, the new Muppet character Walter.
I liked him.
Peter Linz, that's his name.
Ah, okay.
I'm sorry, Peter, if you hear this. I didn't forget your name purposely.
We'll say it was my fault.
It's all your fault, Erin.
It was totally me. I can just cut it out and then put it together. That's what I'll do.
There you go. So this Beyond the Sock Workshop is you go and you spend a week actually building your own puppet character, and then you do workshops with Noel and Peter, and they teach you the techniques of operating a puppet on screen. And then at the end of the course, you, of course, make a film or make a short video.
Yeah.
And I know that there are people who have done it every year, and there are people who go and they do it once and they go, oh, okay, that's how they do that, and I learned a thing. So it's very interesting. You can look that up. I think it's beyondthesock.com, but I'm not sure. So something else to look up. Something that's not even me. I keep pushing other people. I should be pushing
people.
I am. I'm plugging people.
There's nothing wrong with that.
We all gotta stick together.
Yeah. We're all big old puppetry family.
You bet.
I'm going to have to find this because that sounds really cool.
To make your own puppet.
Yeah. I wanna do that.
We're gonna come in here one day and just gonna be covered in puppets.
I would do it.
Your cats will be like trying to crawl out of a pile of puppets. It'll be fun.
I'm going to make puppet cats.
Your cats will be like, she's replaced us.
Well, I gotta tell you, around here we have some pretty colorful dust bunnies. So
yeah, I'd imagine from all that felt and stuff, just collecting and that. See, now she wants to do it because she wants her house to be dirty and whimsical.
Wow.
I love that you knew exactly what I'm thinking.
Because you made that face. I've known you since we were 13. I know that face.
You got it.
She made the "I want to be dirty and whimsical" face.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
It's very specific.
My eyes get wide, but my mouth falls.
Yeah.
My eyebrows are like, wait a second.
I want to do this.
Sounds amazing. So, every single time. It's not hard to learn my facial expressions. They're very repetitive. They are.
So you're like a puppet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually would be a very good cartoon character.
But she does not want people to sit her on their lap.
No, I won't
Not
like
at
that.
all.
Don't stick your hand up my butt.
It's
I'm not going to be a
literally
fan.
puppet.
Look, we did the joke. We did the up the
The
butt
joke that he wants to avoid. But
We're
framed
humans.
it. We framed it in a way where we were like, that's not pleasant. Don't do that.
Yes, exactly.
It wasn't a joke.
I don't judge. I don't judge.
Neither do we.
No. We're just putting it out there. Don't do it.
Don't do that.
Please note that I said that in the most judgmental tone I could muster.
I don't judge.
I am not judging you except in my brain.
See, we can't see your face, so you could totally be judging
Yeah.
us facial-wise.
I know.
We wouldn't even know.
I used to work on the phones a lot, so that would be like, my voice would be like, but my face would be like horrible.
Your eyeballs spinning in their sockets.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was
Indeed.
thinking about something. if your show was like live action people, I think it would be a mix of 30 Rock mixed with Mary Tyler Moore.
Okay. I can see that.
There you go. There you go. With a little bit more perviness. So what can I put in there that's pervy?
I'm not sure. I don't know any
I know it. I know
Little
it.
Benny Hill, maybe?
Oh, Benny Hill, definitely. And then maybe some of That 70s Show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
some Saturday Night Live because it's a lot of sketches.
But yeah.
Right.
From what you're describing, it sounds a little more like Mad TV because they were always a little bit more taboo than Saturday Night Live.
Yes, Mad TV, I agree with that.
There you go.
I do, I agree with that. Or the Canadian version. Kids in the Hall.
Yes, that was even more
I know.
like dark than Mad TV. So
Kids in the Hall, that's what I'm going to say. Kids in the Hall.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I actually really, really am enjoying what I'm seeing on Transylvania Television. It's super fun, and all the characters are lovable. There's not one character where I'm like, you know?
this person.
And I get like that a lot with characters. So
Half our podcasts are why Erin hates a specific character on a TV show.
So I don't hate any of your characters. So you're welcome.
Or thank you.
I actually the little devil guy. I can't think of his name.
Fun Bucket.
Yes, I like him too. He's also another one of my favorites. But why don't you tell our listeners where they can find this? I know Sika TV. Oh wait, why did you switch to Sika?
Okay. Switch to Sika isn't really the right thing. We still have lots. We still have episodes up at. I'm drawing a blank now. Oh, terrible. Terrible. Wow, I'm really blowing this because this is my one opportunity to say this is where you can find our episodes, and I don't know.
Fine.
But we know it's at Sika TV.
I know it's Sika TV, Sika.tv.
Yes. Sika.tv, as well as many other platforms. There, how's that?
That's perfect.
Great.
You did it. I'm so proud of you.
But if you want to see the exclusive content, you have to go to Sika.tv. Now, for folks who might go, oh boy, another platform, it's free. First of all, you can. All you got to do is sign up and get like an account or whatever it is. You know, you got to have your thing where they can contact you by email or something.
You can even log in with Facebook. Like, you don't even have to give them your email.
Right. So it's, it's really super simple. Go there, watch the shows. If we get lots of great numbers, downloads, maybe they'll throw us some more money and we'll make some more.
I hope so.
The other thing that we discovered the other day is that people who are on Netflix, you can actually go to the Netflix site and request shows.
What?
So if you go to the Netflix site and you're a member of Netflix, you could go there and you could type in, I'd really like to see Transylvania Television on Netflix. And that would be really, really handy because, if they get enough requests, maybe they'll contact us and throw some cash our way and we, entertain you folks with puppets for a long, long time.
We have something we need to get started on then.
Yeah. We got a campaign for Transylvania TV for Netflix.
Netflix!
Do like election buttons, but like Netflix.
I would totally dig it. I would do it.
Well, you see, that's the power of advocacy. If people go there from different parts of the country and put in and say, I want to see this show, Netflix looks at that and goes, oh, it's not all just people from Minnesota. It's, people from Washington and people from Canada and people from, Florida and wherever all else. There are people around the country who know what this is.
Now, have you put in for it?
No, because I don't want to follow the results. The funny thing is, one thing I've discovered is you can advocate for your own property day in, day out, 24 hours a day. And when I walk up to you on the street and I say, hey, I make this show, will you watch it? There is an intrinsic thing in you that says, yeah, maybe not. But when your friend says, hey, I saw this show, it's called Transylvania Television, it's really funny, you should watch this, you are far more predisposed to check it out, because that is advocacy. That's
a trusted friend.
Yeah, that's someone saying to you, I've already seen it, it's pretty funny, you're not wasting your time and you won't be insulted. And that's super, super important when you're trying to get anything off the ground.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to do it for 10 years. So
I think it's a great product. Like, the show is awesome, and I feel like if you just get the right people watching it, that it could really take off, because it's entertaining, it's interesting. I haven't seen anything else like it. I think you really have something good going on.
Well, it is absolutely. I can't say I don't love hearing that, because that's one of those things. It's you make something like this and you put it out there, and it's on the internet, and so people will look at it and then they go, oh, okay, that was funny, and then something else catches their attention. Squirrel.
Right.
And
it's instant gratification.
Yeah.
What else can I look at?
And it's very seldom that you actually get any real feedback.
Right.
And there are times when you get feedback and you go, oh, we struck a chord with this person and now they're stalking me.
Well, now you know what I'm doing, Gordon.
Yeah, no, we know how that feels. We have a couple of people that do that.
Yeah, we do.
But,
it's pretty intense.
And the thing is that when you're first starting out, you go, oh, I got a stalker? Good. Maybe they'll tell some other people.
Right. And then when it continues on and they start sending you things in the mail of dead children, you're like, oh, God.
Oh, no. I'm holding up the lawsuit until you get me a couple views.
Tell your friends, and then you're going to jail.
Exactly. But you're buying me off first.
Do what? I missed it.
What?
What'd you say?
But you're buying me a coffee first.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
You're going to jail.
No.
Buying me a coffee.
A chai tea. That's what I want.
You're very specific.
I'm very specific. That stuff's good.
There you go.
Heck yeah. But thank you so much for interviewing with us. We had a great time.
Thanks for having me.
I really hope people get out there and watch this, because it's super fun.
Yeah, and I'm glad we finally got to interview you after all the crap that we've been going through lately.
And it's just been like one trash heap after the next, and we're like, we have to interview Gordon.
I know, we've been trying to get this interview set up for like 2 months, because when we got back from the cons originally, I went to the hospital for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm okay now.
You're doing better, right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good now. But it was a rough time, and then we just had a bunch of technical problems from there, so we're glad to get this done now.
Yeah, I'm glad to get it done, and I want to get the word out about this show, because it's hilarious.
Thank you. I absolutely appreciate that. That's real cash to me.
Yeah. Like, I'm not someone that actually, like, will laugh out loud at things. I'm like on Scrubs, Mandy Moore's character, where it's like, oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. That's so funny. But this show, I actually went, ha!
Yeah.
Oh, it was an ugly laugh. That's good.
It was an ugly laugh.
Her short, like, troll laugh.
And that one. Those are the things that are good. But yeah, thank you so much again. And one more time, tell us where we can find it and if it's purchasable on the interwebs.
We do have DVDs available.
Yeah.
And if you contact us through our website, which is Transylvania-TV.com, you will eventually be funneled to me, and I can get you DVDs. And then all of our stuff is currently up at seeka.tv, SEEKA.tv. Once you go to their landing page, you'll see a button that says Transylvania Television, and that'll take you to the menu for us. So please go watch the show and let us know what you think. Obviously, I mean, don't think that we're standoffish. If you tell us we suck, we'll go, yeah, you're right.
I know. I'm trying.
I'm trying to be better. Oh. But I'm not going to be fully satisfied with the show until there is a Dwayne penis.
That's going to be your other campaign.
That's my other
Netflix and Dwayne penis.
Full frontal Dwayne.
But he could do that if he gets Netflix. Because there's penis all over Netflix shows.
Yeah.
So they would give him the money to make a good penis for
We'll
his
focus
puppet.
on just Netflix for right now. Then later, there shall be penis. Oh, and can they buy your puppets online?
Yes, I have an Etsy site.
Nice.
Right now, I'm in the middle of lots of Christmas craft type shows, so there really isn't anything up there. But between this weekend and Christmas time, more puppets will show up at my Etsy site. If you go to Etsy, it is the Puppet Forge, and
Nice.
You can find it there. So that's awesome.
I'm going to buy 12.
You're going to commit to buying 12.
I'm going to commit to buying 12
He's going to be
right
contacting
now.
you in a month and be like, where's
On
my
the
money?
first day of Puppets, my true love.
He just told you he wasn't nice, and he will take you up on it. So
Crap. I'll buy one, though. I totally will. Do you have mini Dwaynes?
I don't have any Dwaynes. We don't. I don't do replicas of the characters on Etsy.
You should look at that.
Like I say, it's difficult because I would have to reduce them to a seller puppet type design, which I haven't really given much thought to.
he doesn't have the demand for it yet. You have to demand it.
I demand it.
Yes. Well, there you go. Put in a special request, and I'll do you a Dwayne.
Yes, I'm going to do it.
All right. Thank you so much, Gordon.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, seriously, go check out its stuff. It's super good.
And we are ending.
All right,
3,
guys.
2,
We're going to end in this
one.
second right